Hey guys, welcome or welcome back. Thanks for stopping by for another episode here at alliseeisW. In today's video, we'll be covering the latest macro scale updates. In fact, we'll be having some really nice updates heading into next week with upcoming rate cuts, as well as, President Trump meeting with President from China, on Thursday in Korea. All of this is, happening next week. This is going to lead to quantitative easing as well. And what does this mean for crypto and stocks? Will Bitcoin strategy and the big three HODL miners like CleanSpark, Mara, Riot, will they start pumping for the rest of the year? We'll cover all of those details. If you enjoy this content, I would really appreciate you hitting the like, subscribing for more related content. Let's begin, guys. First off, U.S. Treasury official says talks with China have concluded for Saturday. Very constructive discussions to resume Sunday morning. So we got Besant working with the China team there, and this is showing that there's going to be possibly negotiation deals coming very soon. And this is what the markets love to see for crypto and stocks to pump. Bull theory poses U.S. CPI came in at 3%, expected 3.1%. Rate cuts are now confirmed. We have Jerome Powell speaking next week, and we're going to be having rate cuts coming next week. That's going to be very bullish. And when you see CPI actuals, going down by 0.1%, that's better than expected. So you know the drill. Things are looking very bullish. Kalshi poses odds of three rate cuts in 2025 reach an all-time high of 85%. What does that tell you? We got a lot of quantitative easing strategy coming through rate cuts. This is going to be bullish for the markets. Mike Alfred, he's very bullish with crypto and stocks. He says you're going to blink one of these days in November and December, and Bitcoin is going to be 130,000, then 150,000, and you're going to kick yourself for not buying more just a few weeks earlier in October at 106,000, 111,000. It's a story as old as Bitcoin. So we know Bitcoin is just going to continue to go up. It'll go to $1 million. It'll go to multiple millions of dollars. Long term, we know this is the scarcest asset and it's only just going to continue to grow. Cointelegraph posts if Bitcoin hits 116,000, 4.8 billion in shorts will be liquidated. What does that tell you? That's that equilibrium point. Last several weeks we saw like the biggest liquidation event for crypto and altcoins drop significantly all within a day, like on a Friday. And now, we got more short positions, but let's say once Bitcoin hits that 116,000, there's going to be billions of people getting liquidated on short positions. Max Crypto posts global M2 supply is exploding. Think about that. Bitcoin will be next. Just look at this. It's a good thing to see that there's, liquidity all around the world through the big banks. And looking at Bitcoin is just building a base here. So, the bigger the base, the bigger the squeeze up. Bitcoin is getting primed for that next leg up. Crypto Gems posts strategy will moon soon to $1,000. Put in the comments how high you think strategy is going to be going. There's been a lot of bearish activity with strategy. I'm also a holder as well, but I really believe in the use case. What goes down will eventually pop back up. We saw at one point it climbed up from like 220, got up to like, 480, had a big pullback and it climbed up and just recently it's just been retracing for the last several weeks, breaking below 300. We saw some nice movements last week. Can it break above 300? Can it break above 400? I think that's going to be coming. We know that strategy has the biggest, Bitcoin hodl right now working towards 700,000. So eventually the momentum will change and it'll be favorable for the holders. Wall Street analyst Lance has reiterated buy rating on Bitcoin Treasury Company Strategy MSTR with the price target of $620. He knows what's coming. This is very bullish for MSTR. Sailor, he's been quiet, where you have like Tom Lee really taking over the show recently just with all of the market sentiment around Ethereum. But I think that, the ebbs and flows are going to be coming. And I think, Sailor is going to be positioned positioned for favorable, price movements to the upside with MSTR. Micro to macro, he posts about CleanSpark. He says found support on peak volumes 3 from previous chart and is looking to get back again the previous 7-year downtrend trend line. Nothing has changed. We're ready to go higher. So just looking at this, we got the fib levels being retested at this level here, and soon enough, he's saying we're going to be getting up to a range where it's going to be around, above 30, and he's forecasting it's going to be hitting above the $50 range. Put that into perspective. When is that going to be coming? That's showing that it's going to be like somewhere around January, February of next year. But let's say end of the year, he's forecasting somewhere around it's going to be like, at least $35. Donald Dean posts about CleanSpark on its golden ratio target. CleanSpark is now back above 1793 resistance level after that recent retracement, right? And then the golden ratio target would be somewhere around that $25. So are we seeing this wave position, or is it going to, it retested that Fibonacci level soon enough? We're going to start seeing it climb up. Flow God posts about Mara. Just look at this. There's a 227,000 call buyer, 75% out of the money, $35 call expiring, January 16, 2026. That's just very bullish. The upside potential, this whale believes that Mara is undervalued. And I really do think Mara is undervalued as well. And definitely, I think this out of the money call can definitely hit. And this would be very favorable for this whale who's positioned for a big run up, 35 $34 call, expiring January. Investidor posts Mara seeing some posts about a cup and handle. So here it is, price target $30. I mean, just look at this cup and handle formation. I mean, it's only a matter of time where we're gonna see this, this big squeeze candle. I think Mara has just been lagging behind, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to go up. Especially with Bitcoin to go up, we're going to see the multiplier effect. They have over like 53,000 Bitcoins. So as soon as we see Bitcoin price, moving up, the revenue, the profit margins are going to change significantly for a big time hodler like Mara. But from the technicals, just looking at this, definitely awaiting for a breakout squeeze. $30 is very well achievable. Crypto Calio, he posts about Riot platforms. He's been bullish on Riot for the last several months. He's saying $100 plus is still a magnet. So what does that tell you? Is Riot going to be, having a huge breakout in the coming months, up through where we are in Q4? Or are we going to see it continue in Q1? But Crypto Calio, he's saying 100 plus is still a magnet. So why is he bullish on it? I think he sees the growth run ups. Every Bitcoin cycle, 2017, you see it run up. 2020, you see that big run up. And now, we're expecting to see that, prior resistance be met just based on the mapping from the last, halving events. Fibonacci trading posts about Riot, the weekly charts, testing and holding a broken resistance, turning it into support. Yeah, that's bullish. Exactly the kind of confirmation you want to see before the next leg higher. And the good news is on the weekly, even though it just retested, that resistance, now it's becoming the support. We see the relative strength also, resetting. That's definitely a good thing because when you see things just go up, RSI gets, overbought. But just with the recent retracement, it gives the stock an opportunity to breathe for the next leg higher. Let's take a look at technical analysis of Bitcoin. So some good news that we're seeing. I mean, relative strength is, fairly low, currently at around 42, 47. Good news is at one point we saw, the momentum candle, it reversed, 108 got up to like 114, and then we had a reversal. It was a big dip back to like 106 that created the bearish candle. But just recently, last week, we got that momentum candle going from 107 to 111. Now we're getting close to retesting that, 5 Fibonacci at 112,000. But it's going to be key to get above the 618 Fibonacci level, which I do think very well achievable. Can it be this week? It's possible. possible. I think next week we may very well start retesting this, 618 fib level. I think, we're in this bullish sentiment. Now that we have this red candle playing out, we're going to start seeing it follow through with some purple candles. I think soon enough, next week, we're going to hit the 618 fib, 115, Bitcoin, and then soon enough, we will be climbing, marching up, to 130, 150,000 as we head into the rest of Q4. But this is looking good. I think volume's going to start increasing. This is definitely a signal we want to look for, those red candles. The last candle we had September 29th, it went from 112 all the way to 126,000. So soon enough, we're going to see it, squeeze. And it's been hovering around this base. Just think about it. I mean, the 318 fib level, I mean, May of 2025, it's been hovering around this range. So prime for the next leg up. Let's take a look at technicals of strategy. So I got the momentum candle turned on as well. And I like looking at relative strength. Anytime when we see RSI or, at this lower limit range, that's an indicator of oversold signals. And what does it mean when you have oversold signals? I mean, look at this back in March, February, we had capitulation mode where oversold signals at around, 230, and then it rocketed all the way to like 430. So we're around that range very soon. And I think as we see Bitcoin start to, ramp up, we may very well see a red candle kick into gears very soon. And this is going to be bullish for strategy. It's been pinned down for quite some time. So, we haven't had a momentum candle turn on for a long time. So I think, we're going to be headed, potentially to 440, in the upcoming week. So definitely some potential upside as we look at where the current price is. It recently went from like 295 all the way to 367, and then it had that major reversal. But I think we still continue to see higher lows established, and it's just awaiting for this breakout, which I do think, MSTR could very well get, above, 440, above 500 through the rest of the week as Bitcoin breaks above 130, 150,000. So be on the lookout. I think strategy is positioned for a reversal from where we are now. I think the base is built. I don't think it's going to go any lower from where we are, especially with Q4 to be very bullish and next week to have huge catalysts. Let's take a look at CleanSpark. So we are looking at, the Elliott Wave 5 playing out from my, perspective. And good thing is we had relative strength back in October. I mean, it was in the overbought series. I mean, it went from like $9 all the way up to $24 within a matter of weeks. It needed to cool off a bit. This is definitely healthy retracement. Now that we have RSI resetting and we're building a base, we see the bulls, buying in with volume at these levels, $16. You go from 24 to 16, that's an $8 discount per share. I think you're going to have people buying in the stock, so the wave 4 has been established, and now, we're forming that wave 5. I do think that we're going to see, the price get somewhere around that $30 range, with wave 5 playing out. So this is looking bullish. On the daily candle, we haven't seen the red candle kick into gears, but I do anticipate next week is going to be a bullish week where we're going to see, the red candle kick into gears. And look at this red candle. The last one was September 9th, and it ramped all the way up. So once we get that red candle, things are going to look very good. CleanSpark, they're positioning very well, also tapping into HPC AI. So I definitely do think that things are looking very favorable for this company as it scales up its development operations, not only in mining but also for data centers. Take a look at Mara. So Mara on the technicals, what I like about Mara is it's been lagging behind. And when you think about it, they have a ton of Bitcoin on their balance sheet, 53,000. So Bitcoin goes 130 or 150,000. That's going to be huge profit margins for the company. They've been hodling a huge amount right behind strategy. Obviously they don't have the same amount, but this is like the biggest company, second biggest in terms of what they have on their balance sheet with Bitcoin HODL. So digital asset treasuries haven't been doing so well, but that doesn't mean that they won't do well now. now. Looking at the relative strength at one point, it was hovering at 19. It got that momentum candle. It shot up close to $24. We had that pullback, which was expected for all stocks. And now, it's building a base. It had a wicks down below at the 618 fib level, but it's building up. It retested the, 786 fib at $20. And I think as we head into next week, we're going to start retesting the one fib. And then soon enough, we're going to break above the, 1618 golden ratio fib at 25. But I really do think that we have that potential to get around the 3618 fib around 32 $39 range in this, in this year, 2025. So definitely see that cup and handle formation playing. It's suppressed down. Technicals look very good. Relative strength is just awaiting for a breakout. So I think, the volume is going to be kicking in for Mara. Let's take a look at Riot platforms on the technical. So Riot, in fact, they'll be having their earnings announcement right around the time when President Trump and Xi are going to be, visiting each other, discussing negotiations, as well as, the rate cuts coming. So lots of things going on, multiple variables playing out. Now, typically when earnings do happen for Riot, similar to the last earnings Q2, we had a big pullback. Hopefully we don't see that. It's possible that it can happen. So, whatever position you're in, just be mindful of that. We could see a pullback or we could see some surprising announcement because they know that every earnings report, there's a lot of, shorters trying to take advantage. They might announce something very favorable for the company. What if it's, an HPC data center announcement deal with the client? You never know. It's possible. I wouldn't say that it's likely, but you never know what the leadership team is doing, and they might just announce that, which is a low probability. But I do think that, this quarter or next quarter, we might get some, some HPC deal. They're in the state where they are in the seller's market. Any announcement, right now, like rushing through it, if you wait longer, the contract, will be more favorable because now the demand for energy HPC is so high at levels where you don't even expect it. They have the data center, they have the energy capacity, but just look at the technicals here. I mean, we saw October 9th, relative strength shot up 76. I mean, it was in the overbought situation. So, it reached up to $24. It pulled back to $18. That's a big, deviation, $6 difference. But you know what? There was a lot of buying opportunity, buying low at these prices, sub 20. And now we see a reversal. Last 2 days, we've seen, some nice favorable gains with Riot platforms. A lot of people are positioning in anticipation, even smart money, that there's going to be an HPC announcement. We got this red candle just turned on. So, expecting to see it potentially climb up even further. And we saw from like Crypto Calio, we saw from others, the weekly charts, we retested that, now building support at the prior resistance breakthrough above 20. Come next week, it's going to be very exciting. It may go down or it may go up, but I think as we scale out long-term course, in the rest of 2025, we may very well start seeing it climb above 30, $50 plus for Riot platforms in the year 2025. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you did, go ahead, give it a like, subscribe, share it with a friend. Thanks, guys, for watching.